Some customers of SoulCycle and Equinox gyms, they are protesting after billionaire investor Stephen Ross planned to host a fundraiser for President Trump in the Hamptons. The fundraiser is scheduled for tomorrow with top price tickets selling for $250,000, which includes a meeting with the president. Ross is chairman of the Related Companies, a real estate company that owns Equinox, SoulCycle, and Pure Yoga. He's also owner, of course, of the NFL's Miami Dolphins. Some are taking to social media saying they're canceling their Equinox memberships, and celebrities are speaking out. Comedian Billy Enter tweeted that he canceled his membership, writing, "Money talks, especially with these monsters. If it's too inconvenient for you to trade one luxury gym for another, then you should be ashamed. No disrespect to the many wonderful employees at my local Equinox. Bye." Chrissy Teigen tweeting, "Everyone who cancels their Equinox and SoulCycle memberships, meet me at the library, bring weights." In a post on Instagram, Equinox and SoulCycle said they have nothing to do with the fundraiser for President Trump and do not support it. They say no profits are used to fund politicians. And they say Mr. Ross is a passive investor and is not involved with the management of the business. In a statement through Related Companies, Stephen Ross then put out a statement saying, "Well, some prefer to sit outside of the process and criticize. I prefer to engage directly and support the things I deeply care about. I have known Donald Trump for 40 years, and while we agree on some issues, we strongly disagree on many others. I have been and will continue to be an outspoken champion of racial equality, inclusion, diversity, public education, and environmental sustainability. I have and will continue to support leaders on both sides of the aisle to address these challenges." But to me, this is the intersection of business and politics, and boy, are they colliding, because SoulCycle and Equinox in particular, I think, have built a brand around a community of people who care about LGBT issues, diversity. It's a progressive group of people for the most part, relatively activist, and a lot of the things that President Trump represents are lightning rods, if you will, for them. You saw Andy Cohen, by the way, from Bravo on Instagram saying, I don't know, he was going back and forth about whether he was going to go to the gym in the afternoon yesterday because he has an Equinox membership. And so you can see how these things can collide and what they can do to the brand. And the question, of course, is, can they push through this, and does this change the dynamic for a company like a SoulCycle and Equinox? And should Stephen Ross bow to the pressure? And that's the other question, right? I mean, everybody has the right to pursue their own politics, but you can see how they can come back on the other end.
This reminds me, a couple years back, when Kevin Plank went on CNBC with Scott Wapner, and he made a pro-Trump comment. The difference is SoulCycle in particular, as opposed to Equinox, is all about its progressivity. It's founded by Elizabeth Cutler, Julie Rice, friends of mine. Our kids are friends. Two very socially conscious, progressive, smart business people, and the entire culture of the business is based on that. You go to one class, and you know that is the culture of that company, and that is different from Under Armour in that Kevin Plank made one comment. Right. This is a fundraise for Donald Trump. It's going to be really tough for Melanie, the CEO of SoulCycle, to kind of get this back on track, because that community cares deeply and they're plugged in. Is this a risk to their performance as a publicly traded company eventually? Oh, it's a risk immediately. I mean, today they're going to have fewer riders that will show up for SoulCycle. The question now is how will they come back from it? How will they address it? These are smart people. Right. My question is, does this filter throughout the business community in a broader way? I'm thinking to myself, think about all of the big private equity firms that have so much ownership and interest across, do people start to look at how money flows and filters to specific people? I'm thinking, for example, Steven Schwartzman's been a long-time supporter of President Trump. I'm sure there's some business that they own down the line. We saw it in another way, in another context, when it came to Saudi Arabian money after the killing of Khashoggi. And so people were scrutinizing, and that sort of blew over.
So I mean, look, we saw this with Chick-fil-A as well, where people were upset about certain Christian values. And, I think this idea of, are people going to look a little bit more deeply because there's more transparency on who gives money to where? The only caveat I put here, other than saying it's another good reason for me not to go to the gym, is the notion of if we're going to go down these social justice warrior type battles, which is fine. Again, people have the right to express themselves. I'd like to see some consistency. Right. Because there tends to be a little bit of hypocrisy where they're willing to look the other way, and then there's stuff that, let's say Donald Trump, that really brings up their ire. So, if you're going to be consistent about your concerns on social consciousness, do it consistently. And I really don't see it.
But the issue here is if you hold yourself out as a business to have certain values and you have a certain culture, then you need to always act in alignment.
Are people extrapolating the values of the founders to the rest of the business? Does SoulCycle and Equinox stand for those values, or do they stand for a way of fitness, a way of life, a lifestyle, and then by extension those values? Because I think that's a very different thing.
Are you a SoulCycle customer?
No.
If you go into a SoulCycle class, it is who they are. It hits you in the face. The things people talk about, the way they talk to each other, less so at Equinox, which feels more like a gym or a business.